right, welcome in. Bettor's Last Stand, back after a Thanksgiving hiatus. Last time we were seen over at Belmont Brew Works. Had our buddy Rick on the show. He had us over. It was a great evening. We talked a lot about sports betting on the show as always, and then had a few drinks and something to eat. So it was a good time. Chris here with me in the studio.
Hello, Matt.
Returning from the Thanksgiving break. This is show number 63. Coach in parts unknown, and currently I think he's headed out to Wheeling College for a big showdown tonight against Davis and Elkins. So we'll have Coach's picks later in the show. Just recapping people on how we did in the month of November. We were up over 45 units as a group, which is pretty awesome. Last week wasn't our best, but we didn't have a show, so I don't know if anybody even followed. But we were on social media. I know it's Thanksgiving holiday. Coach and I put out some picks. They weren't wonderful, but you know, we're back at it now. But up 45 units, 45.05 for the month, which was pretty good. We were just under 1 unit the last 2 weeks. We're up just under 1 unit. So treading water the last couple of weeks. If you count the juice and everything, we're still a little bit ahead, so that's not too bad. We're up over 3 units 2 weeks ago. Chris, that was when you last participated in picks. You were 7-4 in college football that week and 3-2 in the NFL. So pretty good.
Yeah.
1-1 on your best bet. Coach was 10-7 in college football the last 2 weeks, 4-4 in the NFL the last 2 weeks. But his best bets, 0-4. We got to get working on those. Coach's best bets is struggling. I was 8-10 over the last 2 weeks in college, 8-5 in the NFL. Best bets were 2-2. Best bets on the year so far, 13-7 for me, 6-12 for Coach, and Chris still in the lead at 10-5-1. So pretty good start. Also, we're actually over 6 units in our college football future bets, 16-10-1 on the season. So that was a pretty good success. We were ahead on those. A couple of tight losses, but overall, very, very good performance. And so far in the futures for the NFL, we are 1-0. I was able to cash on the Texans already over 5.5. So that was a good one. I gave that one way, 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 way back. I was back in the early summer, I think. Had that on one of the shows. But I'm starting to get concerned about a couple of my other ones that looked really good. So Cincinnati, I'm not worried about that one now, but Green Bay's starting to show some signs of life. So we'll talk about that later in the show. Duggar's Saucy Spread Challenge finished up last week in overtime. Kayleen defeated Jerry. Came down to 1 game separation as North Marion took care of Weirton, and that was Kayleen's path to victory. Her plaque sitting here in the studio right now. I think Coach is going to hang that up. She's our first annual Duggar's Saucy Spread Challenge victor, so congrats to Kayleen, our boss at the Watchdog. She does a wonderful job, and we are really happy to be on her team. And thanks to Duggar for sponsoring the awesome event. It was really fun. Chris, I hope you enjoyed it.
No doubt, Matt. It was a lot of fun. And I think I did better than I expected. I mean, I was right in the middle of the pack. What do we have, 14 participants? I think I won 2 weeks, or I had to talk.
You did.
So I'll take that.
It's just hard to be consistent, over 13 weeks of action.
Really, so is Kayleen, I mean, does she follow this, or she's a stroke of luck and she knows a lot about it, or she have a consultant?
Well, she lives with a guy that knows a lot about it, so I think maybe Brett gave her a few tips.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Good for her.
So, yeah.
But it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
It was, and Jerry just misses out. But, thanks to everybody that participated, and thanks again to Duggar's and all his wonderful staff for sponsoring and providing us with wonderful tailgate foods throughout the Pine Room season. So we appreciate everything they do. A couple of notes that we have coming up on the show. If you're listening to this on Friday morning, flip over to the Watchdog at noon. We're on 12 to 3. Mike Florio is going to be in studio with us, I believe, in the 135 segment of the show. So stop on by the Watchdog dial and tune us in with Mike as he'll be in town talking about some things, holiday books and some other things that he's got going on up here. So we'll be happy to have him back for our third encounter with Mr. Florio. He's as big as they come, and his publication, Pro Football Talks, one of the biggest, most followed, websites and social media pages, and just everything that he does content-wise is really, really good. And you see him on NBC on the Sunday Night Football games every week. He's
very, very entertaining, and I thought it was great when we got to meet him a few months back when he was promoting that Father of Mine book. So good for us to get him back in the studio, and he's a great I think he's a great analyst. I love listening to him.
He is. I like him because he just doesn't sugarcoat, and he's
he doesn't.
Very honest. And, you can get that from him just as soon as you meet him. He fits in well with us, all being Wheeling people.
Yes.
It's like he's just one of us, and, we appreciate him. He doesn't need to take time out to spend with us, but he's the one that's reaching out and, saying he'll come and, sit down with us for a while when he has time. So we appreciate it, and we're happy to have him back. We also got Nailing It Down on Friday. Nailers will be back in action Friday at home tonight. If you're listening to it, they'll play when we record this as well. They're on the road this evening. But they'll be back against Toledo on Friday. Isaac Basinger will be in studio in the 2:30 hour, I believe, or 2 o'clock hour. Don't quote me on that. I know it's somewhere. It's been a floating schedule this week, but Isaac will be on during our Nailing It Down segment, talk about the Nailers, and boy, they've been victimized by a lot of call-ups again, Chris.
Yeah, I saw that.
Dave Rousseau is up last. Yeah, I mean, their top five of their top players are out. So with Wilkes-Barre.
Well, now that was something that you addressed.
With Coach Army way back.
Yeah, and I don't know what the normal how that works. If it, I guess a lot of it has to do with injuries and things like that kind of drive those things. But it certainly happened early in their season. What about 10, 12 games in that they're already depleted?
Yeah, no, it's like every week you go by, it's like, all right, you take a sigh of relief, and then boom, they take two guys. Then the goalie comes back, and then here goes two more guys right before the Thanksgiving Eve game, and it's like, man, Wilkes-Barre guys. But I wonder if it is, Ricard Raquel is on long-term IR now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, how much of this is a chain reaction from the top club, but I'm sure some of it is.
Well, and then so when they have that happen, they lose two guys this week, and three guys in the previous week, whatever. Where do they get the other guys from though? Like they just to replenish since it's at the lower level.
Yeah, so they'll either
have some free agents.
So they'll either get free agent guys, or they'll make trades with other teams.
Okay.
Or guys that'll be almost sold. It's almost like soccer when it's down at that level. If you got to buy a couple guys, or teams could loan. Cross-team loans. Teams from another hockey league in some other part of the country or the world. May have guys that they would loan to you for a price if they have stockpile of people. So yeah, I'm sure when Coach Army was talking about how many he likes getting the college players, I'm sure he's got a pretty good network of guys to give a call on a short notice that are probably just dying to break into the league and get their chance. And I'm sure it's got to be a lot. It's got to be a lot to handle, especially trying to keep a lineup and trying to keep your team playing with chemistry and stuff.
To me, that would be
really hard.
One of the biggest challenges is dealing with that chemistry. Especially when you have two or three lines that are just rolling, and then on a Friday, hey, well, sorry to give you the bad news, but we need your two top wingers or whatever it might be. And as a fan, I mean, I can only imagine as the coaching staff what they have to deal with, but it's even kind of frustrating as a fan when you think you got your
there's five guys I don't know anymore. It's like
exactly.
I'm starting to learn the guys, and it's like, oh no, I don't know them now. It's like, God,
so you always got to keep doing your homework on the roster.
Yeah, so Nailers in action tonight in Indy. Hopefully they'll do all right, but it's definitely cut into their goal scoring. Their goal numbers have been down immensely, and they'll be back against Toledo on Friday evening. So we appreciate Isaac joining us for Nailing It Down on Friday. That's our regular segment. And again, thanks to our sponsors, IC Cab, who's done a wonderful job with us. They sponsor the 2 o'clock hour of our radio show. They sponsor this show and our podcast. So thanks to all of our friends at IC Cab, serving the Ohio Valley for all your transportation needs and the extended area, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Columbus, all those types of spots around the region. I imagine they're going to continue to keep expanding from what Phil has told us. Corporate transportation and courier services are also available, so arrange your ride today, 304-232-1313, or download the trusty IC Cab app, which I really like. I used it once. It's been wonderful to me, and I will definitely use it again. So IC Cab, always working, and that's a good motto.
Matt, every time you mention them, and I'm in here in the studio with you quite often, a day does not go by where I don't see one, where I don't see at least one IC Cab. So
I would agree.
They're everywhere. So like you always tell people, take advantage of that.
Yep. Coach did the other night.
Yes.
He's the kind of guy that should definitely be using an IC cab regularly.
No doubt.
All right, let's get back into it. We recapped what we did in our picks for the last couple of weeks. So, again, up 45 units for the month of November. We'll take that anytime. 16, 10, and 1 on our college football futures, college football futures. NFL is still pending. All right, let's jump right into it. College football championship week. We got the playoff rankings came out last night. Georgia, Michigan, Washington, Florida State, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Alabama. Chris, what do you think of the top 8? And if you have to put your money somewhere heading into championship week to win it all, make the playoff, obviously, and then win the playoff, where would you lean at this point?
Well, I mean, that's the only lock in this top 4 here is obviously I think it's going to be Michigan to.
Right, because they have basically a bye week this week.
Exactly, but all the other teams in there. I mean, Georgia is obviously the favorite. What are they riding a 29-game win streak,
yes,
I believe.
29.
In Washington, Florida State. Florida State's not hosting, but playing Louisville. For like Ohio State fans, Oregon fans, Texas, they still got an outside shot. Obviously, they need a lot of help. But I heard this question posed today on a talk show. If Bama would upset Georgia, is there a chance that both of those teams could not make it, or would you say with the SEC bye, that Georgia was going to make it no matter what? Yeah,
no, I've heard that discussed a ton. And my take on it is if I'm looking at for the 4 very best teams, not who deserves it, not who's from the power conference, not necessarily who's undefeated, but the best teams, and that includes the healthier players. Florida State is not even close. To me, they're number 8 out of those 8 teams that we named. Even with their quarterback, I would say they might be 5 at the best, probably more like 6 or 7, even with a healthy quarterback.
Correct.
To me, Alabama's been playing very well the last few weeks. Now, they were lucky to have won last week, but, they've definitely improved since they played Texas. Texas has also won a lot of games in very close games. They've probably been pretty fortunate. I think, what game was that? They were playing Kansas State, I think, had every opportunity to have beaten them, and they kind of screwed it up. Oregon and Washington, to me, should be number 1 and 2 in this ranking. But to go back to your question, I'd say, in my opinion, Alabama, if they beat Georgia, I think Alabama and Georgia should be in. And then I think the winner of Washington, Oregon will be in, and then Michigan. That's how it would shake out, if you ask me.
Right. And obviously, if Michigan somehow would lose, which they won't, they're out.
You're right, though. I would say if any of the free squares on the bingo card, it's them this week. Out of all those teams, Ohio State obviously doesn't even play. So Ohio State, to me, should be eliminated immediately because every one of these teams, Georgia, Michigan, Washington, Florida State, Oregon, Texas, and Alabama, are all in their conference championship game. Which one's missing in the conference championship game? Ohio State. Now, I'd agree their conference is stupid, and they're finally fixing it next year. So those teams are going to end up – I wonder how many times they're going to end up replaying each other. So then – but it then diminishes the first game because – people are telling us now that if Washington loses on Friday, which is tonight if you're listening to this, that they're out now. So what good did it do them beating Oregon, Chris, in the first game back when we were actually at Kayleen and Brett's house?
Right, and that would give them their first loss.
Right,
they'd be 12-1, and they'd have.
So they would have been better off losing that game and then winning this one. If that even makes any sense to anybody.
But I think the powers that be, if they had their way, they would put Georgia, Michigan.
They'll want Ohio State in there if they can do anything to get them in there. Now, I will say it helps a little bit that Texas is back in the mix because they got a big brand name too. That's helpful.
But if you just went on name alone, now it would probably be Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and Texas.
Yes. So you would interchange whoever, Georgia, Alabama, at least one of them, and then those teams you just said.
And out of those teams,
Washington and Oregon are going to get fucked here because their conference is disbanding, so they know that they're not going to be any backlash. So whoever wins that game, the loser is out. They could play, if Washington and Oregon, say they played like an epic, like the USC Texas national championship game, like a game like that, went like 5 overtimes, and eventually one team won the game by 2. How could you not take the other team in that? Especially considering how even they would be.
Man, I'm totally in agreement with you on that because When you said the best teams versus the teams that deserve it, I'm not sold on Florida State.
No,
but if that were to happen, Washington would lose. Those teams would be tied.
Right.
At 12
identical records.
They should definitely make it. Just one of those knocked like a heavyweight 15-round fight.
But they won't.
No.
And that's where the SEC has an advantage because their conference is strong.
Mm-hmm.
The ESPN owns their brand. That helps a ton. But, yeah, Pac-12 is going to get shafted here. And I'm not Pac-12 guy at all, but this year they by far the best league.
I wouldn't argue that for 1 second.
I mean, just watch the games. All you got to do is watch the games and see the teams that they beat. And honestly, Washington's resume is better than Oregon's. Mm-hmm. Washington played Arizona and beat them, and Oregon didn't have to play Arizona.
Yes,
so, I mean, that's a big – and Arizona was one of the surprise, very good teams. And honestly, if you replayed this season and they catch a few more breaks, they might be in the playoff hunt. Like, they were that good, which nobody saw that. So you have 3 potential playoff teams in the Pac-12, and then not to mention USC had a subpar year, but incredible offensive talent, the best player in college football. And then you had Utah, who if they had their quarterback, they might have been in the mix. So I think it's ridiculous what's going on here. In my opinion, I said on the radio yesterday, just watching the games, and again, I know that's not what you do, but at some point somebody's got to watch the teams play. It can't just all be data, and it can't just be like, well, you all played the same schedule, because that's not true. You got to watch them. So I thought, in my opinion, right now, the 4 best teams to me were Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, and Washington. I actually think Michigan is not really even in the top 4, but I understand they're going undefeated in the mighty Big Ten. They got to make it in, and I don't have a problem with that really. But I personally, just if you ask me what I've seen visually, I would say Michigan is probably about 5th on this list. Ohio State's probably about 7th. Texas is around 6 or 7, and then Florida State's way down at number 8. So, to my point is, I don't think that'll pan out that way. But if you're picking the 4 best teams, in my opinion, it would be the 2 SEC schools and the 2 Pac-12 schools.
Well, yeah, I agree. And Florida State. I mean, hey, they don't impress me, but they're 12-0, and it's just like those.
If they had their quarterback and they were 12-0, I can understand them getting in, but they don't.
Yes, and they're playing in a.
So how bad do you think it would be if they're the number 4 seed and they play either Georgia or I guess if Oregon would win and Georgia would lose, Oregon would be number 1, or even Michigan.
And with this new quarterback they got,
I mean, how bad do you think it would be?
It would be ugly.
I mean, they barely beat Boston College. They were trailing to Pitt late in the game. They barely beat Miami. There was another game. Well, Florida last week, they came alive late. There was another ACC game there that they were dead and buried. And Clemson. Yeah. Clemson, if they have a kicker that can make a 29-yard field goal, they would have won. Yeah,
probably their best win was it week 1 when they beat
LSU, if you consider that. Yeah. So if you want to say that is, but then people will say Alabama has no good wins. But they beat LSU.
I mean, they beat everybody on their schedule. They're 12-0, but no, I don't rank them in there.
Well, it's like the Kenyon Martin argument. Remember that year when they were so good, Cincinnati, and he broke his foot or whatever, or his leg, and then they dropped him to a number 2 and they lost in the second round. I mean, you got to do that. It's just it's not fair to me as a person who would be. Say I was running either the TV company or the people that are sponsoring, paying $1 million an ad for 30 seconds. I'm wanting the very best teams in here, and I don't care if Florida State's undefeated. I'm sorry for their luck, but you cannot put them in there under any circumstance. I don't care if they go out and beat Louisville by 30. I don't think you can put them in.
No, and that's why it's
a free pass for the number 1 seed.
To me, it would be very helpful and maybe make it
Louisville just wins.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
if
I would say
win.
I would say that these playoff committee people are hoping for Oklahoma State to win. They're hoping for Louisville to win for sure, and then that makes their job a lot easier. And then they would have to decide, and then it makes it really easy if Georgia wins. Mm-hmm. So then you got Georgia already in, and then if you have that all happen. Then it's an outside shot that the loser of the Washington-Oregon game. Now, I guess only if it would be Washington. It would have to be
Washington,
yeah,
right?
Because then how about that? If that happens, so Georgia beats Alabama, Michigan's going to win for sure. Washington beats Oregon, Florida State gets beat, Texas gets beat, and obviously Alabama gets beat. Guess who gets in there?
The number 6 team.
Yeah,
Ohio State.
Yeah, and they get the rematch with Georgia. So, and then in that case, do Florida State fans have a beef? Now, in my opinion, Florida State, a healthy Florida State and a healthy Ohio State, I hate to say it, but Ohio State's better than them, but not by much, but better. Both teams, to me, lack just their overall.
Well, I thought
team.
Michigan was the better team.
I agree.
They were definitely better.
I would say Michigan, to me, it was right around where the line was. They were slightly better with the home field advantage. I feel like maybe Michigan on a neutral field was 1 or 2 points better. I didn't think a whole lot separated them, and that went into why I didn't think that even the Big Ten should have a team in the top 5, to be honest. I don't think either one of those teams is up to the level.
Well, and I agree with you, too, on that. Even Michigan undefeated. But, I mean, who have they beaten?
Nobody.
I mean, they beat Ohio
Penn
State in Penn State, yeah.
Garbage.
I mean, and that is –
That's a bad league. I'm sorry. That's how in the world – if you put the top 5 teams in the Pac-12 up against the top 5 teams in the Big Ten and you did aggregate score, it would be an absolute slaughter. Yeah. I mean, I'm talking a total bloodbath. So even if you put the very heavyweights, Washington would match up against Michigan and Oregon against Ohio State. You're telling me that the 2 Pac-12 schools couldn't sweep those two? They could definitely. And then you're putting who's the third best team in the Pac-12? Arizona against Penn State? Yeah, I think Arizona a touchdown favorite in that game easily.
No doubt.
And then you then you get a pick between Utah and USC or Oregon State against who? Yeah. In the Pac-10 or in the Big Ten? Who's their 4th best team?
Wisconsin.
Oh my God.
I
know. That's how bad it is. I mean, I don't even know who could it be?
And I don't recall. I mean, you follow
Iowa.
College.
I forgot about Iowa.
Yeah,
they'd be the 4th best team by default.
You follow the college football more than I do, but at least I have an idea what the hell's going on. But I don't recall the Big Ten being this bad from top to bottom. Or I should say from positions 3 down to whatever.
Yeah, really 2.
It's
1A, and then there's a drop off to Penn State and Iowa. And then, because Penn State slaughtered Iowa. So,
yes.
I don't know. But, hey, next year they got all those teams from the West Coast coming in.
And to me, it's a shame that the way that it shakes out that Iowa is in a conference championship game.
Yeah, it's pathetic. 2 years in a row, they're gonna get absolutely annihilated. They have no business being in there.
No.
And they cheer like morons, and that's fine. But, like – if you even ask Kirk Ferentz, are all football coaches, is it part of your subconscious that you have to be in denial? Because, I mean, I'd have a hard time answering that honestly if they said, Coach Ferentz, do you really think you have a chance this week? I don't know how you can answer yes. I really don't. So, if Michigan's whole team got food poisoning or something like that, and I'm not even sure that would be enough.
Well, and it's usually basically all cliches and word salad.
God. Mike Tomlin's the best at it.
Yeah, but when he goes home, he probably just sits down maybe with his wife
or his loser offensive coordinator's son.
And say, we don't have a fucking prayer in this game.
No chance.
Let's just keep it close.
Let's just make sure none of our people get their necks broke.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how it is. God.
But, I mean, I guess coaches have to lie to themselves.
They do.
Into their team because there's absolutely no way they can.
You know what, Chris? They can lie to themselves. They can lie to their wives. They can lie to their teams, but they ain't lying to us.
No.
So we'll see right through those fuckers.
Absolutely.
All right, so next year we got a 12-team playoff. So today I found it interesting. This is how it would shape up right now if there was no conference championships and you go right into these.
Based on the top 12?
Yeah,
right
so right now Michigan would be the 2 seed.
Right.
They get a bye. They would play the winner of Texas and Penn State. So I would probably advance Texas in that game, just barely, just barely. And then you go over to the other side of the bracket, number 1 seed overall, Georgia. They would play the winner of the 8-9 battle between Alabama and Missouri, and I would give Alabama the edge there. So it'd probably be Alabama and Georgia, which we have matching up in the SEC championship. Down to the bottom side of the left bracket, we have number 6 seed Ohio State taking on number 11 Ole Miss, and boy. That's a tricky game to me. I would say Ohio State has a little bit of an advantage, but I don't think that would be a blowout either way. I think that's a pretty tight game, but I'll advance Ohio State. They would take on Washington. The winner of that game would take on number 3 seed Washington. So you would have a potential Michigan-Ohio State rematch on the left side of the bracket if Ohio State were to get by Washington. And then you drop over to the right, you have the number 4 seed Florida State getting a bye, which I'd totally disagree with. But if I guess you really couldn't do anything if it was a 12-team playoff. You couldn't bitch too much. Then they would play the winner of Oregon and Tulane, who would be the non-Power 5 team into the playoffs. So I would imagine Oregon would pretty much Tulane I don't think would get embarrassed, but Oregon's going to have too much firepower. So you get Oregon, Florida State. Oregon would definitely advance there. And then you get an Alabama, Georgia matchup, which could go any way. And then you get Washington, Ohio State, and Texas, Michigan. Those are pretty good semifinal games, Chris.
Well, it'd be nice, too, if you could get just for old time's sake, Washington and Ohio State in the game, just because it reminds me of the old Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, ironically, they have the games that this would be. Michigan would play the winner of Texas and Penn State in the Cotton Bowl. Ohio State, Ole Miss winner would play Washington in the Fiesta Bowl. And then whoever on the left side of that bracket would win out between the Michigan, Texas, Ohio State, or Washington, they would play each other in the Rose Bowl. Mm-hmm. So you could potentially have Ohio State and Michigan playing each other in the Rose Bowl. My God, the TV people couldn't get enough of that.
Well, that'd be cool, but I just don't like when rivals like that. It'd be like, when Florida State and Miami, they had that awesome rivalry. Them, or even Michigan and Ohio State, playing twice in the same year. I don't like that.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to cheapen that next year when Ohio State and Michigan, because it's going to make the first game matter less. Because everybody's going to say
exactly.
The team who wins the second one is automatically, so it almost gives you an incentive to not even win. So unless you're certain you're going to sweep them both, then you better damn well lose the first game versus the second game. It's silly.
And with the 12-team playoff, so Ohio State or any of those teams that are perennially up in the top 10, top 5 can go into the playoff when having 2 losses. Mm-hmm. Like you look at it right now, Oklahoma's 12th, and they're 10-2.
Yeah. And I'm wondering how these championship games are even going to be able to hang around with this 12-team playoff. I don't think they're going to be able to, because it's going to not be an incentive. Like, if you're already going to be in the 12 teams, why would you even want to play in that conference championship game? I get it. You maybe want to secure a bye, but if you're able to avoid it, you could have some pretty good teams kind of getting an extra week of rest in that whole thing. So
absolutely,
be curious to see how it plays out. And I don't know.
But I don't know how good it is. I mean,
I'm not a fan of it. To me, this year, I can already tell you that, in my opinion, Washington and Georgia should just play for the national championship right now. Just visually, to me, they're the 2 best teams, and I'll be fine with that.
I'd sign off on it.
I don't need any of the other things to tell me that. I don't need to have mediocre teams getting in there and getting smashed.
It's like we've said before, even in other sports, like with this NBA and that stupid in-season tournament, it's to me it's kind of gimmicky, and it's just a license to print money.
It is. Well, it totally is. And if they think that they're going to get the March Madness effect, I don't know if they're thinking, because right now they don't even want the March Madness effect. If any of those small schools even get close to the top 4, they don't let them in anyway. They love that upsets in March, but not during this time of year. Got to have all the big old time powers win.
And it seems like now with. I think it's I don't like the way college football's set up, and I'm sure you're the same way with all these conference realignments. It's asinine. Someone from the East Coast is playing, and someone from the West Coast.
Rutgers, USC.
They're in the same conference.
In a conference game.
The NIL, the transfer portal. Before I came down here, I saw all 3 quarterbacks from Michigan State are in the transfer portal. Yeah.
There's going to be. I guarantee. I said on the radio yesterday, that kid from Ohio State, he'll be in the transfer portal. They're going to boo that kid out of town. He ain't gonna make it.
They were talking on radio.
Oh, he's gone. There ain't no way he's staying there.
And they said, "Well, does Ohio State need to go to the portal to get a quarterback?" So I mean, it's just off when the kids.
Yeah, I think it's really, really fucked football up badly. I don't mind it as much in basketball, because we had all these guys leaving early anyway to go into the NBA and skipping. So to me, it's made basketball a tiny bit better as far as making the teams more even. Now, I'd still hate it from a perspective of getting to know your players on your team and all that. And I always just loved knowing the same guys in the Big East. You knew every guy on a team of each team. And you knew that they were going to be there next year. And it was rare. Transferring was so freaking rare back then. It was like the absolute most, like,
there had to be a legitimate,
like a really good reason.
Yeah.
Like a really bad family tragedy, something along those lines. Yeah. Now it's just these kids, they get disinterested so quickly.
And even back then, like that was big news, and sometimes it was difficult to even grant a transfer or however they did that system.
Automatically, a city year.
But now it's just like, you know what? Hey, coach yelled at me last week, hurt my feelings. Right. I'm going to the portal, and it's so simple.
My mom said I'm better than the kid that's starting ahead of me.
Yep.
Oh God,
it's embarrassing.
All right, well, Chris, the good news is The next time we do this, it'll be bowl games. So this is our last really like regular season type conference championship week of college football. We only got a few games to go through. Thank goodness. Let's get it started and get it finished. Let's start it off on Friday night. New Mexico State Aggies and the Liberty Flames, Conference USA champion. Now, these teams don't seem like they should be in the same conference. Liberty from Virginia taking on New Mexico State in the conference championship game in Lynchburg. So Liberty with a home field advantage here. They're laying 10.5. The total 55.5. Actually went up to 56.5. Open 53. So I don't know. I don't really have a play here, but I would lean towards Liberty if I had to make a pick. Chris, where are you going?
I'm taking the under in the game.
Okay,
I think New Mexico would maybe try to just use some clock, just with some long time sustaining drives, and just slow it down. I think 10.5 might be too many, but I'm not sure about that, so I'm going to take the under. They've won 8 straight. Even then, they had a win I think over Auburn, didn't they?
Yes.
And they were 4-2 against the spread as an underdog.
I would say if I was going to lean, if I could get 10.5, I'll take New Mexico State. They actually are okay. I had them a few times. They were a pretty good cover team. I think they're pretty well coached, and I agree with you. This likely to me is a very close to the vest type game. Be a huge milestone for New Mexico State were they to win this game. So I think they'll play it very close. The Friday night, the showdown, Pac-12 championship, Allegiant Stadium, Las Vegas, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington waging war. This line to me just made no sense at all, but I know this. I've been around too long. God.
So what's the deal with that?
9.5. Just the way that Oregon's just power rated through the roof. And Oregon minus 9.5. Total 66.5. Seems ridiculous. It was a 3-point spread for Washington in their game back in October. Washington won the game by 3. I will be playing Washington in this game. I expect this line to get up above 10. Oregon is taking so much love from sharp bettors and bookmakers. It's weird to me. Something seems off. I mean, I've watched Bo Nix playing some big games, and he's not been that good. So I'll be taking the 10.5 or 10 with Washington and be glad, and I'll sprinkle a little money line in. I just think the wrong team's favored in this game. In my opinion, I've said all year, and Chris, you know well, I've never been a guy that's going to be on a Pac-12 school. I'm usually dismissive of them immediately. Right. But from the very beginning of the season, Washington, to me, looked like they were different. So,
absolutely.
And I'm not saying Oregon's not really good. I think this is a 3-point game either way. But I'll be taking the Huskies. Where are you heading?
Yeah, I'm taking Washington as well, getting that 9.5. I just think this is going to be a tremendous game. I'm looking forward to it.
What about total-wise? Do you think it'll be high scoring? Or?
Yeah, it's probably one of those deals where the team that has the ball last could win it. And I just, this is basically not that it's going to be decided, but it's a battle for the Heisman Trophy between Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. So
I'm taking
I
Penix.
think they're both going to play well, but I'll take the left-hander as well.
Yep. All right. Should be a great game. Coach says he wishes that game was Saturday, but I don't really care.
No, I like it.
Friday actually good because this is standalone. I don't have to worry about any other crap getting in the way.
And stay at home and watch it sober.
Yeah, or go to the Naylor game.
Yeah.
And watch it on your phone or go to River City for the final quarter. All right, MAC Championship, Saturday afternoon, noon kick, Ford Field, Detroit, Michigan. Miami Redhawks, Toledo Rockets. It'll be the Rockets minus 7.5, total 44. Couldn't really get a handle on MAC teams all season long. 46.5 was the opening total. It's down to 44. I lean to the under here, but I really have nothing else, Chris. What do you say?
Matt, I like let's see what I have marked here. I like the Toledo Rockets.
Okay.
They're looking to repeat as the MAC champs. And they've covered the 4 of their last 5 games. I'm taking them. I'm taking Toledo.
Okay. And, Coach, heavy play on Toledo game over 44. So, Coach and I will be at odds on that one because I'm probably leaning towards the under in that game. Moving along, Big 12 Championship, Oklahoma State at Texas. Well, not really. They're in Texas, taking on Texas, Arlington, Texas, that is. It'll be the Longhorns minus 14.5, but I saw this thing hitting 16.5 in some spots before I left the office today. Total 55. This thing opened at 12. Landslide of money coming in on Texas. I haven't seen it from Texas. I've been skeptical all year. I think they're good, not great. Oklahoma State is a team to me that overlooks teams quite a bit. They will not do that here. I think Gundy will have them ready, and I will gladly take the 2 touchdowns plus that I can get in this game with the Cowboys. Although they were horrendous last week and the week before, I still think Oklahoma State has a chance of winning this game. Chris, what do you think?
I like the Cowboys as well. They've been kind of all over the board the last couple of weeks. I mean, they had a win over rival Oklahoma, but then just got slaughtered at UCF. And it should be a hell of a game. Texas is 1-4 against the spread when favored by 14 or less. I think the Oklahoma State running game is pretty solid. I think they'll keep it somewhat close, at least enough for Oklahoma State to cover. So
I agree.
I'm going with the Cowboys.
All right, we're both on the Cowboys. Let's go to the Mountain West Championship game. Boise and UNLV. It'll be the Broncos -2.5. Total 58.5. This game also at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. I really don't have a play here. Don't love either one of these teams, but the UNLV coach, I will say, has done a hell of a job out there, and he's gonna. I don't know if they'll have much of a home field advantage, but it'll be interesting to see. So I'd lean UNLV just a little bit because this is the biggest game in their program's history. Coach heavy on the under in this game. Chris, where'd you come down?
I'm going with Boise State.
Okay.
They replaced their coach, I believe,
yes,
right? Andy Avalos was fired.
Yeah,
and they've won their last 2 games to get into this championship. UNLV kind of backed their way in, losing to San Jose State, and they still got it. Boise has won the last 6 meetings, so they're going to win the 7th straight, and they will cover. So I'm going with Boise. And, Matt, I actually put that as my best play for this week.
Bet. Chris's best bets.
Boise Broncos.
He's been the best of all of us in college this year. If you want to go back and highlight Chris's best bets, he's 10-5-1 on the season.
Hope it's 11-5-1 in the –
Keep it rolling. Georgia and Alabama SEC Championship game, 4 o'clock CBS, Atlanta, Georgia, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. On Saturday, of course, Georgia -5.5, total 54.5, open 4. Some 6s out there. Total open 56.5, all the way down through 54.5 to 53. I actually like this game over quite a bit, and I like Alabama in the game. I think this is a 3-point type game with the last team having the ball, probably getting it done. Alabama's offense has improved a bunch, so has Georgia's. I really think there'll be points here, Chris. Normally these two teams you think a little bit of defense too, but I think points. What do you say?
Georgia's covered its only single-digit when they were favored, single-digit margin this year. I mean, you got 2 of the best coaches. I think it's going to be a phenomenal game, but I think Georgia in the end will just have too much. So I'm going to say they're going to Georgia will cover. They'll win by about 8 to 10 points.
Okay.
But it'll be a competitive game.
Yeah.
It's going to be good.
Coach on Alabama in the game plus the points. American Conference Championship game, SMU and Tulane, the Green Wave, -5, total 48. This thing opened 52.5 on the total. It's down to 48 or 47.5 at some spots. Don't really have a really great feel in this game. Coach, I believe, Coach, very, very strong play on SMU. So I don't know what to make of that. I know he's very high on them. I tell you, Tulane has been a program that's impressed me the last couple of years. I haven't watched a ton of their games. But when I have watched them, they don't look like they're overmatched by these Power 5 conferences. So I lean Tulane minus the points, just barely though. But I think this should be a good game. Maybe some points in this one too.
Yeah, I think so. It'll be a good game. Tulane actually broke a 7-game losing streak in a series to SMU last year. They blasted SMU. But I think SMU, the Mustangs, this is their last go-around in the AAC, so they're going to win this championship and take their program to the ACC next year. So I'm going with the Mustangs.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
It is. It is.
In the Atlantic Coast Conference. Yeah, weird stuff. Coach on SMU, of course. Sun Belt Championship, Veterans Memorial Stadium in Troy, Alabama. That'll be Troy's home field. It'll be App State, the Mountaineers taking on the Troy Trojans. Troy -3.5 or -6.5 would be about 3 on a neutral, but they are at home. 6.5, total 52.5. I mean, do you just play them simply because they're on their home field, Chris, or do you?
I'm going with App State.
Okay,
they've won last 5.
I don't have a feel.
5 in the series. Their quarterback has at least 3 TDs in every game of their 5-game winning streak. And for what it's worth, since 2021, App State is 6-1-1 against the spread as an underdog. So I'm going with the
all good numbers.
What are they?
Mountaineers. Mountaineers. Let's go. Mountaineers.
So I'm gonna take App State.
Okay, I like it. I'll be back.
It'll be tough though at Troy.
Troy. Yeah, you don't go into Troy and come out alive very often. No. Yeah. All right. ACC Championship game, Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. Louisville Cardinals, Florida State Seminoles, Florida State -2.5, total 48.5. This thing actually opened 6.5. Louisville got caught looking ahead, obviously, last week, which you had to worry about. I've liked Louisville in this game for several weeks now in a row. I thought they were going to win even before Jordan Travis got hurt, and I will be backing the Cardinals now, although I wish I would have bet it earlier because I could have got a better money line prices. I think they win this game by at least a touchdown. What do you say, Chris?
Well, I sure as hell hope you're right. I really do. I don't know. I don't know how that loss last week will affect Louisville. I think, FSU, even though with that new quarterback, he's protected the ball. His 2 starts, they only have 5 turnovers all year. I think defensively they'll bottle up Louisville. So I'm going to take, regretfully, I'm going to take Florida State to cover.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can see it. Florida State's got athletes, so it very well could stay close. Coach likes Louisville plus the points as one of his not his stronger plays, but one of his medium plays.
Is it 3 right now, or has that number changed?
2.5, 3,
okay.
yeah. Right. It can be probably right around the field goal. All right, and then the final game, the colossal showdown, 8 o'clock on Fox, Michigan and Iowa. Big Ten Championship,
Matt,
Lucas Oil Stadium.
Listen, would you say this is the least interesting?
Well, I will say this. Iowa has now made me – I've watched more Iowa football in the last probably 7 weeks because I had a game on at my house one time on one of the few Saturdays where we weren't in the Pine Room. I don't know what it was. I don't know if Coach had that wedding, but I got done. They played at 3:30. I turned it on one of my TVs. It was captivating because it was so bad. I mean, they had -2 yards of offense in a quarter and so on. It was a game against Minnesota. I had money on the game, of course, but it was a epiphany, so to speak, that I just realized this team will never score any points in a game. Like you, and their defense is legitimately good, and their offense is horrendously bad. And that's like the perfect storm. And I started jumping on these unders, and I've bet it 7 straight weeks, and it's won 7 straight weeks. And I won't be going away from it here, although this worries me a touch because I think Michigan can win this game about 40-0. So I'd be a tiny bit worried only because of Michigan. But I'll tell you this, Iowa team totals under. I know we were laughing on the radio yesterday that their team total for the first 2 quarters is a half. Like, can they get over a half a point? That means score anything.
In the first half?
No, in the first quarter.
First quarter.
And the first half. But the first half, I think, was 1.5.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, actually, it has to be 2 because I don't think you can even put up a 1.5. But so a field goal would beat you. It's basically what you're coming down to. But I guess for them, you could put a safety to beat you. Anyway, long story short, it'll be Michigan first quarter, Michigan first half, Michigan game for me. 23.5 to me seems very low. I think they flex their muscles, very similar to what Penn State did to them. But it worries me a touch about the under, only because Michigan can match them a little bit more physically than some of the teams, and they may rip them apart a couple of times late in the game to put it over. So, so that's to answer your question. I don't think that game is as bad as it seems because the Iowa, the phenomenon that they've had this year about how they can't get, like, Chris, there's a chance they might not get a first down in this game. Like, I mean, that's how bad their quarterback is. So that's what it's almost like when you, it's a terrible example, but you'll know what I mean. If you see a horrible car accident, you're driving by the scene of an awful accident, and you got the coroner van out there, which you and I have witnessed before, tarps over bodies,
yes.
And you can't help but look towards it. Yeah. So that's what I'm looking at here. Where'd you come down?
I'm going out on a limb here and taking the over. I just think somehow, some way that
I agree.
Iowa just, and I think we even in one of those texts, like a fluke play, a deflected pass, a pick six, or maybe they do happen to go down and throw a long pass, the defender falls down. So I'm gonna take the over.
Yeah. Coach is on the over too. You're on the over. I would lean to the over because of the things that I just said. But if you're going to play unders in this game, find these Iowa team totals. You may be able to get alternate lines on Iowa team total. Iowa under 3, under 3.5. I'm really not certain they'll score. And this isn't a bad game. It's very tough in football to do, is to try for an exact score. But you would have a really good chance of getting Iowa's score correct because it's probably going to be either 3, 6, or 0 because you're really pushing it if you think they're going to score a touchdown. And if they do, I guess you could throw 7 in there. But you then have to just figure out how many points could Michigan score, 41, 40, and you could get incredible payoffs on those. So Iowa unders was pretty good for the team totals, but I like the game over as well.
And I have a question for you on that. Now, is Iowa's defense that stout, or is it because they're in an awful conference?
Well,
with a conference that lacks lacks offense.
Yeah, well, that's a key part of it. I do think their defense is a legit, probably a top 25 defense, but no, like they're gonna struggle. I mean, Penn State's scoring on them. And Michigan's going to score some on them. Yeah. Like their defense isn't like the '85 Bears. Like it's right. Good, but you're right. They playing Wisconsin and Northwestern and Iowa or they are Iowa, Minnesota and what are some of the other Purdue? Like Michigan State, like in Indiana. Like they're not going to have trouble stopping those teams. Rutgers. I mean, Rutgers couldn't get the ball past midfield. I mean, and Rutgers isn't a bad team. So. But I think it was just a bad offense. But, yeah, no, to answer your question, I would say it's more that their defense is probably not as good because they're playing against garbage. But I guess we'll see here this week when they play Michigan. Probably the best team that they have played. Total in the first quarter, 7.5. I'll be taking – I really like Michigan minus 6.5 in the first quarter. I think Michigan will be winning by a touchdown for sure. By the end of the first quarter.
And I found a stat here that it's mind-boggling. Michigan, they must have played 3 teams out of the Big Ten West.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know who those teams were, but in those 3 games, they outscored them 138-30.
Oh, my.
So, I mean,
cool.
That kind of sums up the overall, the top to bottom of this conference.
Right now, Iowa – their team total at 7.5 right now, minus 195 to the under. I can't even find it. I want to try to find some 3.5s because I'm going to play it under. But I really do like the Michigan team total over 29.5. I think they'll score 30 for sure, and you're getting plus money on that. So take a look. This is one of those games that's got a lot of it's like a horror movie. You got a lot of incredible things to look into here, just horrific numbers, but you can take advantage of it. So we'll try to do that and find some winners. Coach, as I said, is on the over in this game as well. So, all right, that concludes our conference championship week rundown of college football. We're going to take a break, come back, touch on a little hockey and some hoops, and then jump into NFL Week 13. Hard to believe. Bettor's Last Stand, Matt and Chris. We'll be right back.
Reminder, this show is for informational and entertainment purposes only. All wagering activities should only be conducted by those 21 years of age or older and within the confines of federal, state, and local law. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, contact 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537. All right, men, load the cannons and hold the line. You're listening to Bettor's Last Stand.
All right, welcome back in. Bettor's Last Stand, show number 63 from the Pine Room Studios in beautiful downtown Wheeling. It's freezing cold outside, but we're going to try to keep it warm in here, give you some more winners as we push along towards the end of the college football season, the end of the NFL season, or at least in the final quarter or third of the season. Hard to imagine. And basketball heating up. We'll be talking plenty about hoops as we wind down football and start to give you a little bit more of an idea on college basketball. But college basketball is going to be quite exciting come springtime with a lot of teams in the mix. A few bad beats to recap before we jump into some other discussions. I guess I really shouldn't say this was a terrible beat because the Vikings really, they were never really covering in the game. But Vikings money line, there was a bettor at Caesars that had 100,000 on them, and I thought they were going to win, and I thought they mismanaged the clock a little bit late in the game and gave the Bears. But boy, what a bad football game that was. So I kind of leaned towards a bad beat there. And then this one, if you went out on a limb and bet no touchdown in the game at 100-1 on Monday Night Football. You almost survived the whole entire game, and then Hawkinson scores late. And how about that one, Chris? He cashes as the first touchdown scorer and the last touchdown scorer.
And
you don't get that very often.
I watched bits and pieces of that, but I was watching it that drive, and it to me it is amazing because Josh Dobbs was not good in that game.
No,
I didn't think
he was horrible. He had
that
4
particular drive. He drove them down there and made some really nice throws, and then hit Hawkinson for the touchdown, and it just amazed me. So yeah, that is a bad beat because he was pretty bad.
Yeah, he was. I mean, 4 turnovers, and Justin Fields, he needed 4 turnovers, and he still barely won the game. I don't see it with that guy. I know maybe I'm in the minority, but man, that guy just doesn't seem to have it to me, and I think the Bears have all those picks. They probably should.
They might address that.
Yeah,
and
he's probably a backup, but that's about all.
And I've watched very few Bears games. I've seen a lot of his highlight runs, not so many throws. But I noticed on a handful of occasions, he just stands back there with the ball. He had plenty of time. I mean, and I don't see how nobody's like the Vikings. Secondary is like a shutdown.
Yeah.
I just seem like, and then obviously you hold it too long, that leads into you get sacked more, and a lot of those are probably on him.
Yeah,
but
no question.
I think he's got talent about it as far as him being.
He's a great athlete. I don't dispute that, but he's not a quarterback. He can make one. He cannot make a multiple read. Like he can't progress.
Did make that one good throw.
Yeah, no, I know, and he'll
one,
show it off. Yeah, but he had his classic fuck up fumble.
Yes, he did.
It almost cost him. And
yes.
Yeah. Anyway, Bears
and under.
Anyway, Bears and under. I don't give a fuck. Right?
Yes.
Where's the T-shirts at? All right, so this one, I was victimized by this last night. Really
I saw
pissed.
This. Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure it out. You're a hockey guy, Chris. Panthers shootout goal overturned, and then they lose to Toronto in the shootout 2-1. I don't understand it. What did you see? I mean, to me, it didn't look like there was anything.
Well, I saw like
there.
three different angles, maybe 4. And 3 of them, I thought there's no way. But then there was one that did show like it looked like he double tapped. Is that how they called it?
Yeah, yeah.
That was Evan Rodriguez.
Yeah. I mean, that's boy. I don't know. I thought that's a tough one to take away.
That was ticky-tack
I mean,
sure.
for a goal that they counted on the ice, I think to take that away was just terrible. And, of course, I had the Panthers at a plus price, so I was not happy about that. That was a really tough one for me. I hope other people out there did not have that because that was.
So yeah, that's for. So the game was over.
It was over.
Yeah,
they were celebrating.
Yeah, yes, they were.
I mean, they were literally the Toronto guys are walking down the fucking runway.
Yes,
I mean, come on. Could that ever happen in my favor? No chance. But anyway, terrible week for sports books. NFL favorites 12-3-1. Overs went 4-0 on Thanksgiving and Black Friday. So that was a bloodbath. And then if the Packers did not win outright, it really would have been ugly for the books, especially on a Thanksgiving, as 49ers, Dallas, and Miami just rolled in those holiday games. And the Lions lay an egg. Thank goodness for the sports books. 9-7 overall to the overs on the week. Best NFL teams against the spread: Philadelphia 7-2-2, Dallas 8-3, Jacksonville 8-3, Baltimore 8-4, and the 49ers are the only team to be favored in every game this season. Obviously, that's pending the rest of the games that are coming. There's likely they'll be favored in the whole schedule, short of a major injury or two. But yeah, they are favored on the road in Philadelphia this week, if you can believe it. And
that is hard to believe.
Yeah, a couple college football notes. Since 2010, Alabama has been favored in 190 of their 193 games. The only 3 times they were a dog, it was against Georgia, as they are again.
13 seasons.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nuts. Colorado and Oregon was the highest bet football game of the season, minus the actually Ohio State and Michigan, second highest bet football game of the season, behind Colorado and Oregon back when Coach Prime was in his prime.
When he was the
and then how about how quickly they've fallen off. Coach celebrating a big victory as Colorado stays under their win total. And once again, Iowa takes that incredible run of low totals, 34.5. 22.5 last week, 33.5, 27, 29, 30, 31. I mean, it's just nuts. So,
wow.
Iowa has set a record for futility in college football. And then finally, Coach's favorite thing of the week, the service plays recap. Couple games of the year I sent to you guys on Saturday. Mark Lawrence playbook, who's actually done pretty well in the season, 23-16 college football. His game of the year, though, a loss with Ohio State. He almost covered, though, I will say, but game of the year, got to do better. Point-wise was 4-1 last week, getting their record to 25-2 in college, 22-14 in the pros. Their top play, Notre Dame, last week was a winner for point-wise. Power sweep. I didn't have a weekly breakdown of them last week. For whatever reason, I couldn't find it. But they're 24-29-2 in college and 12-21 in the pros so far. Brad Powers, he was 2-1 last week on his best bets, and according to my calculations, he's 29-41 in his best bets on the season. Now the red sheet, this is hide, cover your eyes. The next two, red sheet, 1-11 their last 2 weeks, 16-34 in college, 3-7 in the NFL on the season. Winning points, 1-7 the last 2 weeks. College football, 9-17, 12-11, and I think that was 1 in NFL on the season. That's just horrific.
Man, I don't think I could try to go 16-34.
No,
I mean,
and 1-11 in the last 2 weeks.
These guys are making money.
Oh yeah, they are.
Wow.
Phil Steele, coach's boy, 55-66 on college football on the season. 55-66-3. That is 10-7-2 on NFL. So he's a little better in NFL. Gridiron Gold, 19-27 in college football on the year. Pros, 23-12. So that's not bad. Gold Sheet, 30-42-1 in college, 34-24-1. So it seems like a lot of these pro prognosticators are doing a little better than the college sides of things. Victor King, 5-0 last week, 25-11 in the NFL. He does all totals, and he's actually pretty good. He's one of the few guys on this list that we have commented on being in the plus column several weeks. So Victor King tips total sheet, maybe worth a look if you're looking to buy something like that. If we don't get it done for you, maybe look at something like that. Lenny's locks last week, game of the year, Alabama, that did not cover. Dave Essler's game of the year, Florida, did not cover. And Harry Bondi, game of the year, LSU, a win, depending on the number you got. So, anyway, keep it right here on Bettor's Last Stand, because I think we got you covered from the picks perspective that you don't have to spend any money on. So, at some point, we may be introducing premium plays, though, because I think our numbers are getting good enough over an extended period that we've proven that we are actually maybe worth spending a couple dollars on. But we shall see. We'll keep you posted on that. And be sure and follow us on social media at the Pioneer Studios, BLS_PRP, for all these picks. Sam won't be joining us today. He had to stay extra time at work today, so he won't be making the show, but he will have his picks available as well. But racing season did come to a close. All right, Chris, NHL really quickly before we jump into to the NFL. Anything sticking out to you? Penguins power play still sucks. And I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of parity. I think like the divisions are pretty even. A lot of teams kind of stacked up in that Metropolitan Division. A lot of teams around 500.
Yeah, and I just think it depends. I mean, we've seen them enough now where they're one quarter through the season and they're 10-10-1. I mean, they
got a loser point last
year.
night.
They did. They did, but they just have to be better, which I don't think they can be.
Now, how can you bring Erik Karlsson, the best point-producing defenseman of his generation, and arguably the best power play player, minus like Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux, ever to play, and we bring him to Pittsburgh, and we can even make him suck?
I mean,
what's that say for Mike Sullivan and his staff, though?
That to me,
it's a black eye for them, because I never was a Todd Reardon guy, but I think Sullivan's a good coach, but man, he's got to be able to adjust here.
I mean, and they don't have any big bodies in front. You know, Jake Gensel's a freaking midget.
Zohorna.
Yeah, I mean, to try that guy, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to me, that's just something that.
They did have him in the front of the net against Buffalo the other night.
Yes.
A couple times.
I know they said they were going to change up the power play.
Blew another 2-goal lead the other day, though, again.
Oh, that was a bad one.
Yeah. You know what? Seems like they play better against the better teams, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, they really do.
Come back
then
and
they
beat
came
Toronto?
back and beat that Toronto on Saturday. So I don't know. I just think they're going to hover around 500 unless somehow they could make some type of a trade. But they're going to have to. They would have to trade somebody on their roster. They don't really have any draft picks of note. And I, to me, I mean, you mentioned earlier about what you see with your eyes. The hell with what's on. This isn't a championship team.
No, and we've seen
not.
enough.
So
like we don't know shit. Like us too, people can make fun of us, say whatever. You guys, we're not big, high-priced guys on TV telling you what they see. But their eyes work the same as ours. And I've watched as many games, and Chris has too, of the Penguins. So we're going to give you an honest-to-God's, perspective there.
Absolutely.
That a lot of people won't give you because people get in denial. But you know when there's a championship-caliber team out there and when there isn't. And you're right. They're a first-round playoff team, maybe at best.
Yeah, and I don't even know. I don't know the actual stat on their power play, but I know it's damn near the bottom. And I know at one point they were 0 for their last 20. They won or had 20 in a row. They didn't convert. Yeah. And to me, it's like not even worth getting not excited, but like feeling confident when they get a power play. Like, okay,
more likely a shorthanded opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, and to me, I don't know. I just think. Someone suggests, I think I'm just kind of joking around, just they said, let Carlson run the power play, let him set it up the way he wants, just keep the coaches away from it. And
he should be able to pick who he wants out there with him and everything.
But man, I just, it seems like, goddamn, they fucking pass and they pass and they pass. And then they want to set up Malkin for from a, on that right dot firing a left-handed slap shot 30 feet away.
He's not Ovechkin, I'm sorry.
No.
And by the way, the Caps have the worst power play in the NHL.
Yeah.
And now that to me just says one thing: Backstrom, he's out, and he's like done out.
Yeah, he's got a bad hip.
His hip. He'll probably never play again. But I mean, what a big loss that was for them. But these teams are old and
exactly. And they were talking about the Pens might not be slow. They're not as fast as they were in 15 and 16 or 16
17 18
yeah,
too,
whatever
all
years.
the way up 16
yes. Now they can be fast in spurts, but overall, like last night there was a shift in that game. I think it was in the third period. And the Pens could not get the puck from them. I mean, Gino was fucking just exhausted. And you would think, I mean, and now Nashville's not that good, but I mean, they just dominated.
Around the same record,
they were just,
500 team.
They can be fast in spurts, but to keep that up and to try to play that system, it doesn't work.
All you got to do is watch them play the Devils, and you'll see what it looks like to have a fast team against a non-fast team.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Devils weren't even healthy the last time they played.
No, they were down
anyway.
two of their top guys. But Edmonton's on. They're starting to come back.
Maybe it's the time, but I would say sell on Canada if you can find anything out there. No Canadian team to win the Cup. Just keep rolling it over because it's not going to happen. Seen them all play. None of them can do it. None of them can.
No, I would agree with you.
They don't have goalies. I mean, maybe if you gave Toronto a real goaltender, Edmonton, I'm not even sure has enough line depth to be able to do it. But we shall see. Still a lot of hockey to go, and we'll talk plenty more about it once football wraps up. Give you some teams that maybe are down towards the bottom or wherever that can maybe make a run. I got my eye on the LA Kings a little bit in the Western Conference. So talk about that. Let's review a few things here. Goal in the first 10 yeses. Minnesota Wild 15-4. The Oilers 15-5. Ottawa 11-5. Philadelphia 15-6. Those are goals in the first 10 minutes. Yes. No goals in the first 10 minutes. Yes. Or actually, it would be no. So that means there won't be a goal in the first 10 minutes. The Washington Capitals 11-6. They struggle to score, even with the best goal scorer since Mario playing for them. Yes. Winnipeg 12-8. No goal in the first 10. And then first period overs and unders. Edmonton 16-4 to the over. New Jersey 15-4 to the over. Nashville 15-5 to the over, and Calgary 15-6 to the over. While the Vegas Golden Knights are 13-8 to the under. Did the Nashville was there 2 goals in the first period last night? No, I don't think there was.
No.
It was 1-0, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was an under. So they were 15-4 going into that against the Penguins. As I said, Nailers, they are in action tonight and on Friday. If you're tracking Nailers betting over at Wheeling Island Casino, where I work, you can get action on all the Nailer games. If you bet the Nailers every game this year, you'd be up $110 if you bet $100 on them, and they're 7-6-2 to the under currently. So plenty more action, though, in ECHL hockey. Let's shift over to basketball. Chris, the in-season tournament, the quarterfinals are set for that. Anything stick out to you in that wonderful saga? You got the Lakers playing the Suns, the Kings and the Pelicans, the Pacers versus Celtics, and the Bucks versus the Knicks coming up next week.
Matt, absolutely not. And I can't.
What about those courts?
The courts are again. It's gimmicky. And I listened to the radio today. You probably feel the same way. This league fucking sucks.
It's awful.
That is absolutely
really
terrible.
How about the Pacers last week in that game with the over? How many points there were in that game?
God, yeah.
It's an NBA All-Star game.
Yeah, and just like looking at some of the standings, I mean, the fucking Pistons have lost 14 in a row. The overall league, the product is terrible. The inmates run the show.
Yep.
They run the asylum. They play when they want.
They go where they want.
They bitch and moan about this and that.
But they're going to give him $500,000 a guy to win this in-season tournament.
I don't even. I mean, it's amazing to me, and there's so many bad teams. The way the game is played. My takeaway from it, just me personally, I'm old school, so the actual way they play the game absolutely sucks, and just the players themselves. It's an awful.
It just gets
product.
worse by the year after year, and it's a shame too because you got a guy like Wembanyama who's actually probably worth watching a little bit because he's freakishly he just looks like nothing else. Like he makes these giant dudes look like little kids. It's something I've never seen before. A guy that can play that size. I mean. That's like if Manute Bol was like good or like one of those other guys, Sean Bradley or, one of them giant, enormous dudes that had all these guard skills and could shoot. And I don't know.
And another thing I want to bring up to you, and I know this probably pissed you off because it pissed me off because this guy's a dick, is Popovich during a Kawhi Leonard who used to play for them, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so he's shooting a foul shot, and the San Antonio fans are booing him. And right after his foul shot, he grabs a mic and addresses the crowd saying, let these guys play. Don't boo them or be classy.
Greg
kept
Popovich.
booing. Who in the fuck is he to tell a paying customer who's overpaying, paying out the ass for a shitty fucking product? They've lost 12 in a row.
Yeah.
He's a 74-year-old
I can't
fucking
stand that guy.
man.
He should keep him and Robert De Niro should go somewhere together and just shoot each other in the face.
Yeah.
They're idiots. Like Greg Popovich is the kind of guy who wants to give everybody a fucking trophy.
Yes.
He's the one that invented the load management. I find him to be just a repulsive.
He's repulsive. Yeah,
human.
that's
just
good. And
that's
just another like the NBA's working against their fans. They're talking shit on their.
But they took election day off to make sure everybody cheated and voted 3 or 4 times.
That's great.
The kind of stuff they support. So
right.
Down with the NBA.
So I'm sorry, I don't
anything
really have an
about
opinion
on
the tournament.
You've hung on to the NBA a lot longer than I have.
It's just
sadly, and people would never believe this about me and probably even you, but like. I would say when I was like in middle school into my early high school, the NBA might have been my favorite sport.
Oh, yeah.
That's how fucking complete transformation, how that could be. And now, I've struggled to watch one game a year, like combined.
I just find it just unacceptable where these guys have just got it fucking made. Just the way they travel, the money that they make.
Yeah.
And then for a guy
they
to
never
think,
play.
You know what, we're playing Charlotte tonight. I just don't really want to play.
There's no competitive gene there.
No.
They're paid so much it doesn't even matter. They compete. There's no pride. There's no. It's just like in baseball with all the guys that's striking out. No one takes any pride in what they do.
And just a game the other night. I don't know if it was last night, 2 nights ago. Denver beat somebody without Jamal Murray and Jokic.
Right.
And maybe a third guy.
It was the Clippers. Yeah,
how could you could you imagine back in the day, Larry Bird, those Celtics,
and McHale, they're both out.
losing to like the Pistons, who didn't have like Isaiah Lambeer and Joe Dumars.
Right.
They just unthinkable. I don't know. These guys, you're right. They're intestinal. Their toughness and actually
that's our society, though. It's just you got to hang now. You take the day off. Got a little headache, your eye, you got a sore head, sore ear. You just quit. You just give up. Why? Why should I have to? I shouldn't have to perform in this.
And then nobody says
it's not
anything.
fair. And of course, everybody will be out there. It's okay. Take the day off, baby.
And again,
it's okay. Mommy loves you.
Yeah. Here's a Hershey kiss.
Right.
Mommy loves you. But again, when you look at it, and this is basically most all sports. They don't give a fuck about the fans.
No,
they don't give a,
They
and how pissed would you be? We brought it up several times over the years doing this, or even on podcasts where, okay, you go and your 10-year-old son wants to go see Steph Curry play. Spend $400 or whatever player he likes. Well, you know what? He's not playing tonight.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong? Well, he's not hurt. He just doesn't feel like playing. Okay, great.
Yeah,
it's just awful.
Yeah,
Fuck
and then the ones
NBA.
that pay the salaries and keep these
it's
guys
awful.
doing what they
so,
do. But,
I mean, if we could get rid of that league, it'll just go away. You and I will sleep just fine.
it'd be wonderful. College basketball, as we start to get into the beginning of conference play, you started to see some. There's some games out there. Even I was looking on the schedule tonight. Some of the smaller leagues are starting up, so that kind of gets me a little excited. It was a good beginning of this season. I feel like for bettors, you got some good line moves that kind of helped you out. But there's some teams that I'm still pretty high on. I mentioned them way back. I think I was solo that day, but like Ole Miss, I think is a team that's not getting a whole lot of attention. They won again last night. They're pretty good. Chris Beard's coaching them. They're a dark horse type team in the SEC, and I think they'll be a kind of a contender in that league, and perhaps an NCAA tournament team to make a little run. South Carolina, another team, first year head coach. I like what I'm seeing out of them as well. So those two teams. In Colorado State, nice win for them the other night against Creighton. They're good. I had Creighton the night before and ended up going with Colorado State. So I watched a little bit of that at Bull on the Beach with Ace the other day, and Colorado State is good.
That's so much you don't hear that very often.
No.
Someone say Colorado State
is good at anything.
Good. Yeah, I know.
No.
Well,
yeah,
good
so
for them.
a nice win for Creighton, and then South Carolina, as I mentioned, a nice win over Grand Canyon, a team that a lot of people were high on as a under-the-radar small conference type team. So Ole Miss, Colorado State, South Carolina, teams that I'm keeping an eye on, teams that I liked from a future standpoint a few weeks ago at the beginning of the year, and maybe getting involved with something to do with them and making a deeper run into the postseason. Arkansas, I think, is pretty good. I think Colorado is actually pretty good out of the Pac-12. And then last night, Kentucky wore down my Hurricanes. Kentucky's got talent again.
Yeah, how'd that game end up?
They beat them. They ended up winning by almost 20 or whatever. But Miami went on a run. They ended up taking a lead. Calipari had to call timeout. But, yeah. Yeah, Coach Calipari, if for those of you who don't know, we're being stupid.
Right.
Calipari, I like him as a recruiter. I think he's an all right dude. He looks out for these guys, but I don't know how good of an on-court coach he is. So he'll probably fuck it up somehow. But, man, they are really talented. And then Marquette and Creighton in the Big East, both pretty solid teams. Marquette, I think, can make a deep run. Creighton, I think they're better than last year, but not quite where they need to be. But we'll talk more college basketball as we go along. But I would say keep an eye on Ole Miss, Colorado State, and South Carolina for some teams that nobody's really talking about quite yet.
The only thing I have to add to college basketball, because it's in the early stages, ABBB. Anybody but the Blue Bloods. I'll root against anybody.
No, I agree.
I
think
you're talking about all these other teams that normally aren't.
Right.
You
didn't mean that you don't want to hear Michigan State, Duke, North Carolina.
No,
great.
Kansas.
Good. Kansas, yeah.
No.
Although I will say, Kansas is going to be tough to stop.
I know.
Now they got Hunter Dickinson, they're going to be very good.
They got the kid from the big guy, right, from Michigan.
Yeah, Dickinson. Yeah. And then I'll tell you who's very good too, which we've been saying for a couple years. Houston, good program, really solid. They actually play a style that I like. They defend. Like they rebound, their guards are good. They take it to they don't just shoot threes. So Houston, good fundamental team if you ask me. So, college basketball to me, Chris, your Blue Bloods winning it all. Those days are over. So that's the one good thing that the portal has done is you spread out this talent. And you got teams like FAU and Miami making the Final Four last year, and San Diego State making a deep run.
It was great. I loved
it was. I said on the radio and probably on this show and even on the podcast, the last couple of years in college basketball, to me, I've started to enjoy it again like I used to. Now, it's a different type of enjoyment. The old enjoyment, as you know, was we knew all the players on the teams, as we talked about earlier. The same guys were coming back. You knew Georgetown, St. John's, Syracuse, their whole fucking team. And you knew what those games were going to be like, and it was so fun. But now it's like a little bit different. Now you just have all this other talent coming in from all these places and all these teams good from all over the country. So you're getting exciting games. So I guess that's somewhat of a trade-off.
Well, and yes, and another thing to add to that is with the I like to see when these teams advance and go a lot farther into the tournament when we're introduced to new coaches.
Right.
And learning about these new guys,
Right.
A guy had no name.
It's refreshing.
And you get to learn about them, and they're class guys. And fortunately for them, and all those guys that do have success can take jobs and probably triple their salaries somewhere else. But I just always liked that because I got sick and tired of
Same guys.
And Vital just foaming at the mouth over, Coach K and
Izzo.
and all those guys, all of his boyfriends.
Roy Williams.
Yes. So and that's one thing I like about that. So I hope we get the same thing this year with learning about some new guys that can take their teams making a deep run in that tournament.
Agreed. We will focus in on college basketball a bunch here as we make the turn from the first of the year. All right, pro football time. Woo-hoo. Here we go. Everybody's favorite. Monday Night Football unders now 13-4, if you can believe it. And then some of the worst teams in the NFL against the spread this year. Carolina 1-8-2, New England 2-9,
Jesus.
New Orleans 2-8-1, Atlanta 3-8, and Buffalo 4-8 ATS. Yikes. A lot of bad teams. Say it every week. How many teams do you think can win the Super Bowl? And like each week, to me, it never goes any higher than 5. I'm hovering right around 5 right now. It's tough. It might even be less than that, but
I don't see. I mean, just right now, the only team that I feel good about in the AFC is the Ravens. I think.
Ravens and Chiefs. Those are the only two teams.
But Jags are unproven. Miami's unproven.
Right.
Buffalo, they're.
Yeah, I mean, and then your next teams are like Houston, and they're not teams that aren't ready yet. But yeah, Baltimore, pretty overall sound team. But they'll fuck it up.
Well,
and then
that might
Kansas
be
City, they got the best quarterback, so you got to give them a chance, and they got a good defense and a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're right, Chris. There's nobody else. Once the Browns lost to Deshaun Watson, like they were the next. I had them in the mix because I thought their talent-wise they were as good as any of those teams. That they got no chance now. So.
Well, and I'm looking at this. I don't know what you think, but I could just scroll down the NFC real quick. I see Philly, Dallas, and the Niners.
Yeah, and I would eliminate Dallas just by looking at. Have you looked at Dallas the teams they beat?
Pretty bad, right?
If you looked at the teams that Dallas is, that's a homework assignment for people watching. We're not going to waste your time here. Go and look at Dallas's schedule prior to this week. Who do they even play this week? Oh, they play on last night. Okay, Seattle and Thursday. That'll be one of the best team that they've played. Now the teams that they've lost 3 games to Arizona, who's got 2 wins, and they lost to San Francisco by a lot, and then Philadelphia was pretty much in control most of the game there. So those are their losses. But look at their wins. Maybe the best team they've beaten is the Redskins. It is horrific, the teams they've beaten.
Well, and Matt, to support what you're just saying, they are plus 162 in point differential.
Mm-hmm.
They've scored 347 points, so they're loading up their point total on some patsies.
Yes, they absolutely are, and honestly, it's almost a Final Four to me. And if the Chiefs, Ravens, Eagles, and 49ers, if at least 3 of those 4 teams aren't in the conference championships, I'll be stunned, and it will be somebody had to have got hurt because I don't see any way those teams are getting beat. I know everybody wants to say Dallas, but I have not seen they have not beat anybody good or even really had to play anybody good. So we will see. Maybe last night they beat the Seahawks real bad. Who were kind of leaking oil.
You know what? I always like when we do have a mention of Big Mike.
Yeah, Big Mike. But, he'll screw things up too.
Maybe not. Maybe
that's a wild card that hasn't been played yet. But, he'll shoot himself in the foot.
Just speaking of, when we get ready to do these Week 13 games, I looked at it and I'm like, boy, what a bad set of games. These fucking games are.
It's hard to get worse than the 1 o'clock hour last week.
Oh.
Literally the only game worth watching was the Texans and Jags game. 2 pretty decent teams.
Yes.
2 pretty decent quarterbacks.
That could be a rivalry for a long time.
Yes, it's good to see. It's good to see. Although the Texans, D'Amico Ryans kind of fucked it up at the end of the game. Mm-hmm. Should try to get a little closer for that kick. And they had time, and they didn't need. They mismanaged that, and he should have ran a ball on 3rd down, got a couple more yards, and that kicker would have made it. And who knows, they might have won.
Well, if he's a good coach, he'll learn.
I think he will, and I have mostly compliments to say about him, but thought he got a little bit too worried about having to stop the clock with a spike and pass and not running it. If you can't get your field goal team out there in 30 seconds, then you're probably not an NFL team.
Exactly.
But, yeah, well, then again, most of these teams probably couldn't do it. All right, Chargers and Patriots starting it off Week 13. What a game.
Jesus.
Chargers minus 5.5, total 40.5. I'm leaning Chargers, and I'm leaning to the under. I cannot bet the Patriots ever again currently, and I will not bet them over ever again. Last week, my best bet of the week was the Giants and Patriots under. I literally had the cigar lit in the first quarter.
I was going to say, you probably let it as soon as
as soon as the game kicked off. As soon as New England had the ball the first time, I knew I was in good shape.
And then just watching Max. You know what's amazing about these quarterbacks that suck? Every now and then, they'll maybe have a nice, decent drive, some nice passes, and then that's all they got. Then the rest of it's horrible decisions and turnovers.
Isn't it funny,
and
too,
he's one of
to
Mac
see
Jones.
about how, like, the first drive of the game, how they all script the drive?
Yes.
So the quarterback will look okay on that drive, and then after that, it's fucking all downhill. All downhill from there. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. Chris, where'd you lean here?
I'm going with the under, Matt. These two teams are terrible, but I think the Chargers obviously have more talent. They have the edge at quarterback. It's a huge edge. But I think the Chargers are going to win the game, but it'll stay under. It'll be like 28-6.
I agree with that. I'm on the same way. I think Chargers win it, and I think the game stays under. Chargers, to me, have some talent. It'll just win out here. Their quarterback play will win out a little bit, although Belichick will probably triple team Keenan Allen, and who knows, which will lend to the under.
Well, you would think that the Patriots have the coaching advantage.
Because if you flip-flop the two teams and had Belichick coach the Chargers, that'd be an interesting
he might
experiment.
End up being their coach.
Maybe. Let's move on. Lions on the road at the Saints. Lions minus 4, total 46. Lions. Not a good performance on Thanksgiving. Dan Campbell was exposed. He is no longer in the running for Coach of the Year, so cross his name off. I like the Lions to bounce back here. Lions, I will say something about Dan Campbell. When they've played bad, they've followed it up with a pretty good performance. I'll be on the Lions minus 4. I am not a Saints backer. I think they stink. They're 2-8-1 against the spread. Why on earth would I ever want to bet them, Chris?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the game's going to go over. The Lions, to me, though, I think they've taken a couple steps back. Their defense has struggled in their pass protection, and plus Goff. And I think he had 3 turnovers.
Yes,
on
he
Thanksgiving.
He did.
And again, the Saints, that Derek Carr, it's amazing how much money they're paying him. He's not their answer. They're 5-6, but I'm going to take the over.
Okay, like it. Falcons at Jets. What a game. Jeez. Atlanta minus 3 on the road. Total 34. No way in the world I can take the Falcons laying points on the road. Desmond Ridder is horrendous. He almost blew the game last week. I did have the Falcons last week. I'll be fading them this week. I'm reluctantly going to take the Jets here. But, man, Tim Boyle, oh, goodness. I mean, there's got to be they call Zach Amidra. There's got to be a better guy out there. Somebody, Chris.
I mean, and this just reminds me of like a Big Ten game. I mean, what is it? Well, this sheet has 34.
Yeah, 34. I mean, probably around 33 and a half.
And I mean, the quarterback.
Maybe under is the only play.
Well, that's what I'm going with. I mean, the quarterback play will be atrocious and just probably be a punt fest. So I'm going under.
Can you imagine going to that game?
Absolutely
sitting in the
not.
Cold? I mean, I could not pay me enough. Another bad game. Arizona at the Steelers. Steelers minus 5.5. Total 41 in this game. I lean to the under in this game. I think that I can't get behind. I know Matt Canada was gone, but they scored 16 points last week, and they're patting themselves on the back like their offense is good. They had 400 yards against a bad Bengal defense. I like Arizona in this game to maybe cover this 5.5. If I can get it up to 6 or 6.5, I'll be on the Cardinals, but I really like the under in this game. Coach on the Cardinals as well.
I'm taking the under. I feel the same way. They acted like, well, how smart they are. They made a change at offense.
Threw to the tight end. Oh, boy. Good job.
Right. And still only managed 1 touchdown, right?
Yeah.
3 field goals?
Yeah.
So
and then you got guys like Deontay Johnson. I was watching the games with Ace at Harpoon Hannah's, and we were keeping an eye on that game because that was the one that was right in front of us. We had all the games on, all those wonderful 1 o'clock games. And you could see that those Steeler players, they're teetering on the brink of like a mutiny almost. Like they're teetering, like they are about done with Kenny Pickett. Like I know that last week helped, but like Deontay Johnson's a time bomb. He was just quitting on plays on that one play that Warren fumbled. He just stood there and watched it.
And I didn't really notice it because everybody kind of stopped. They thought maybe the play was dead.
Right.
But then the next day when they kind of highlighted that, like, But again, I'm sure he. You know what? If he was getting 10 catches a game, he probably balls out and tackles you.
Yep. He was pouting because of that touchdown got taken away, which should have been a touchdown if dumbass Tomlin would have challenged it. But anyway,
Mike Tomlin likes to tolerate these prima donnas. He just nothing but
Tomlin's he's a clown.
Yeah,
I just think he's so mediocre. I will say somehow he's done a great job as a babysitter. I mean, I don't know how he's put up with some of the guys he's had to put up with. I'll give him credit for that, but he's really squandered a lot of good teams, and now they don't have a good team, and they're just going to beat all these bad teams. So. So you're on the under, me and Coach on Arizona, and I'm on the under as well. Colts and Titans, another great game. Colts -1.5 on the road. Again, how can they be laying points on the road? 42.5. I'm on the under in this game. Colts and Titans both off victories last week. I don't know which team to fade. Both. I don't know. I don't know where this goes wrong, but I think that it'll be a low scoring.
Well, Titans seem to play pretty well at home. I know they're 4-7. And again, I don't see how the Colts give up those points either, so I'm taking the Titans at home.
Okay, makes sense. Dolphins and Commanders. Dolphins -9, total 50. I don't agree with this line either. Washington in the game on Thanksgiving, I know it looked like a blowout, but they had a lot of opportunities to keep that game close for a while.
Yes, they did.
Sam Howell was just, he was so bad. I think they bounce back here. There's supposed to be some bad weather, some precipitation. It's going to be really cold. And I don't like the way Tua plays in the cold, and I don't like the Dolphins in the cold. I know it didn't matter against the Jets last week, but I'm going to lean towards the Commanders. If I can get 9.5 or 10, I'll be on them. Chris, where are you going?
Because of what you just said, I'm going to go with the under on that. I think Dolphins. Originally, I had the Dolphins covering this game. I'll still go with that, though.
Yeah. Okay.
I think.
They're the better team.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt. But I just wonder when is Miami going to start to shrivel up like a couple pussies?
And now the talk started about Riverboat Ron's going to be going. I just wonder how that affects teams. I don't know, but the Commanders stink.
Yeah, they do. Denver and Houston. Denver's showing some signs of life. I got to give Peyton a little bit of credit. He's gotten them back to where they're respectable, and they've had a favorable schedule. Houston -3.5 in this game, total 47.5. Houston off a game where they did not play very well but still had a chance to win. I'll be on the Texans. I think they're a very good team, up and coming, and I think Denver's little run here ends. What do you say?
I couldn't have said it better. I got the Texans circled, so they're going to beat the Broncos and cover.
All right, well, interestingly enough, Coach's best bet of the week is the Denver Broncos, if you can believe that, plus the 3.5. So Coach's best bet, Denver Broncos. We'll see. Something's got to give. Carolina and Tampa, division battle. What a division this is. Tampa -5.5, total 36.5. Frank Reich kicked to the curb. Boy, he's a bust. He's been terrible everywhere he's been. Again, Tampa 5.5, 36.5 on the total here. Coach on Tampa minus the points. I don't know where to go here, Chris. I really don't have a good feel in this game. I think both these teams are in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I do too, but I feel like Tampa's, they're playing at home. They're better than the Panthers, and they just, with Reich gone, that's not going to make any difference. I think they will have enough, and they will cover.
Okay, so Tampa minus, you're on there with Coach. San Francisco and Philadelphia. Finally get to a good game. This is an NFC championship, probably a preview. San Fran -2.5 on the road, total 46.5. Not much more you can say about these two teams. They're the best two teams in the NFC by far. To me, visually, on paper, everything, Chris. Where are you going here? Coin flip game to me.
It is definitely a coin flip, and I think there's going to be some points.
I agree with that.
The Eagles' defense is really. They gave up a shit ton last week. So I'm going to take the over.
Yeah, a lot of yards,
an entertaining game,
a lot of points.
Yep.
I think I agree. Good game. Comes down to the wire. I think a field goal separates the teams. If I could get 3 with Philly at home, I'd probably take it. But I expect a really well-played game and lots of points. Cleveland and the Rams, 4:25 kick on Fox. Rams -3.5, total 39.5. I really like the Browns here. Browns, I knew was a bad spot for them last week. I was on Denver. This week I'll be on the Browns. Rams have won a couple in a row. They've played a little bit more respectable, but I like the Browns here. I think they give Stafford some issues, and I think they don't have to make too many plays. Rams defense a little vulnerable. Maybe the under, too, Chris, in this game. Browns offense is going to be struggling to score the rest of the year.
Have they determined a quarterback yet?
No.
I didn't think. And I don't know the actual stat, but I know that Kevin Stefanski has they've played pretty well coming off a loss. They stayed out there after the Seattle game. So
good, I like that already.
They said the Browns just kind of got away. They a couple nights out in L.A. Nightlife and just doing that, whatever the hell that means, and it probably won't be a factor in this game. But I, as much as I want to, I just think that these injuries are starting to take their toll. I don't know if Denzel Ward's playing or their quarterback. So I like the Rams.
Okay.
I hate to say that, but I just don't have a feel. And the Browns have not won. I told Tony this today. The Browns have not won a game in the Pacific time zone since 2012.
Oh boy.
Brandon Weeden was their quarterback.
Oh my
Trent
God.
Richardson they beat the Raiders.
Oh my.
So
God.
I hope the hell I'm wrong.
Ooh, no wonder he's staying out there.
Yeah.
Good move, Stefanski.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see if it helps any. And then Sunday night game also not a bad game now.
No.
Kansas City and Green Bay to be the Chiefs -6, total 42.5. Looks like some weather coming in Green Bay. I thought 42.5 was way too high on this. So I like the under. I lean Kansas City. Green Bay, I got to say, Jordan Love's played all right. He's been a little bit better. Still don't know if he's a starter yet. They've had a good run of schedules, and they've seemed to be the receivers are starting to get a little chemistry. So I'll give credit where it's due. So that's right. You can rewind it. I gave credit to Sean Payton and Jordan Love. I'm not giving it to Justin Fields yet. But anyway, I think the Packers have been a little more respectable. Their defense is okay. Chiefs' defense is really good. I think Mahomes makes just enough plays to win this game. I don't love Kansas City -6 because it's a tough number to cover. But I will be on the under. Chris, where'd you end up?
I think the Packers are at least cover.
Okay.
Give me the points.
Right.
I think this is going to be a really good game. Yeah, I think it is. I mean, it's kind of weird to talk about the Chiefs' defense.
I know.
How it's been solid most of the year, and they've struggled offensively.
Right. But I think they got Mahomes. Any week they could snap out of it.
And you're always going to give the edge to Mahomes over Jordan Love. But like you said, Love has made some strides. He looked pretty good on Thanksgiving, but this isn't the Lions they're playing.
Correct. All right, and then
it's going to stay close.
Yep, I agree with that. Then Monday Night Football, Cincinnati Bengals at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville -9, total 38. Probably lean to the under in this one, although I think Jacksonville could score a lot of points in this game. Cincinnati's defense is very iffy to me. Cincinnati's offense is very bad. But I don't know. I don't have a strong feel. Maybe a lean towards the under. Maybe a team total on the Jags over. Chris, where'd you go?
Yeah, I just think that the Bengals are just going to maybe mail it in. I mean,
well, if they were smart, they would, because then you get a better draft pick.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no. I mean, they're 5-6. Obviously, they if they had Burrow, they'd still be
right
for the playoffs, but they don't. So the Jags are going to win this one handily. So I am taking them.
Okay, I like it. All right, and then recapping best bets. Coach's best bet is Denver. Chris, where'd you go with your best bet
my
in
best
the pros?
bet in the pros are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay, so let me circle this on the card. Chris on Tampa Bay, and that is his best bet against Carolina. And my best bet of the week is going to be the Detroit Lions, -4 against the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, that's probably a good
I think they bounce back in style, and like Chris said, who did you just mention that has done well bouncing back after a loss? The Browns?
The Browns had,
but may not matter.
Right.
But okay. So Chris on Tampa, Coach on Denver, and I am on Detroit. And then going back to our college best bets, Chris is on Boise State as his best bet. And what did I say Coach's was? Oh, Coach's best bet is the Michigan game over. That's Coach's best bet. And then my best bet is the Louisville Cardinals against Florida State.
Yeah.
And I would take that money line or plus the points.
Let's get that one in,
get.
Matt. We need the playoff needs Louisville to win.
Yes, I agree. The committee will rest easier should that be the case. All right, well, that concludes the NFL schedule. Chris, anything we missed? Anything you want to rehash?
No, just glad to be back, and we got through a nice holiday, and looking for. Well, I shouldn't say I'm looking forward to Week 13 in the NFL, but it's almost when we do these picks, I pay extra special attention because you want to be right, and we're actually doing pretty well, and I like to be included in on it. I'm enjoying it, and. So let's give the people some more wins.
Let's try. Until next week, we'll see you on Bettor's Last Stand. We'll probably have a few more shows before the Christmas week, and then I'm not sure how things will pan out. We will be at Belmont Brew Works next Wednesday for our regular podcast, so we may do Bettor's Last Stand a little earlier in the week, but it'll still come out at your usual time. Be sure and check us out on the radio 12 to 3 Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday and Friday. Used to be Thursday. Mm-hmm. Tuesday and Friday 12 to 3. Monday 2 to 3. IC Cab sponsors our 2 o'clock hour. Again, thanks to IC Cab for everything they've done for us. Check us out on social at the Pine Room Studios, BLS_PRP for all the picks. We'll have some stuff from Sam if he has anything. He's out this week. Racing concluded last week. Max Verstappen won 19 of the 21 races.
That's incredible.
19 of the 22 races this year. So ridiculous. No racing until February, which kind of missed that. But that's all right. We got plenty of other stuff to get us through. Be sure and follow our content at the Pine Room Studios throughout, and keep up with us on the Watchdog. We got Mike Florio coming up today on the show, so tune in, and Isaac Basinger on Nailing It Down. That'll do it for us here from the Pine Room Studios. Chris and Matt with you on Bettor's Last Stand. We will see you next week. Good luck.
Good night.